We are live. Hit play. Now.
Services in the UK have come under fire for forcibly taking children from their parents for seemingly minor reasons. Care workers insist they are always putting the best interests of the children first, but families say they're needlessly broken up, and critics claim the system is all wrong. RT's Laura Evans investigates.
A woman jailed for waving to her children across the street. A mother in court over sending her 8-year-old son a birthday card. They may sound like surreal soundbites from a totalitarian state, but actually they're headlines from the UK. Christopher Booker is an investigative journalist who's looked into what he calls forced adoption.
I had a case the other day where a mother was about to deliver her child in a hospital, and 5 policemen and 2 social workers came into the delivery room to seize that child. 5 policemen with a mother who is helpless lying there giving birth to her baby. I mean, you can't believe such things are happening.
This family is now a happy one, but it was once torn apart, and anger remains at the actions of social services. Little Constancia's elder sister was taken into state care aged just 4 months, and social workers wanted to take Constancia too at birth.
I did think my daughter would come back to us after a time, but she ended up being put up for adoption about 3 years ago. My daughter was about to come back to us when a psychologist came forward and diagnosed us paranoid, depressed, and he used a term remote. And on the basis of that, it was hard to get my daughter back.
Although that diagnosis was refuted by other doctors, it took John Fowler 5 years to get his daughter back. She was taken on evidence from his 11-year-old stepson, who accused John and his wife of hitting their children, something they denied.
I wouldn't say I was a brilliant stepfather. There was a problem in the house, but I don't think it merited taking my daughter in the train and putting them into care themselves. I think the problem could have been addressed in a better way.
There are around 60,000 children in care in the UK, 0.5% of the total child population. Christopher Booker says there are hundreds, possibly thousands of cases a year in which children are wrongly taken, and he's suspicious about the motives.
There's a very considerable amount of money to be made for if you're an adoptive parent. You take in one of these children, or you're a foster carer, you can get £400 a week for each child, which is, if you have 2 or 3 adopted children, it's a hell of a lot of money. So the whole thing has become a very nasty, inhuman racket.
At the other end of the spectrum, there are shocking stories of abuse and neglect, such as the infamous baby P scandal. In that case, social workers failed to remove a toddler from his parents, who ultimately tortured him to death. Social workers say it's a fine balance, and that the goal is to keep families together wherever possible.
It's going to be a debate that goes on and on and on. Either we're too accommodating of parents who have obviously difficulties in caring for their children, or we're overzealous and we're just taking these children and really swiftly and promptly and just placing them for adoption, and those are 2 extremes.
It's a process that's shrouded in secrecy by the law, and social services refuse to discuss individual cases. But they do say that once a child is in care, the priority is to have them adopted as soon as possible. That emphasis led to John Fowler's daughter being advertised in a local newspaper like these, a practice that's become commonplace. John Fowler's story has a happy ending. He got his elder daughter back, although she's still under surveillance by the social services, and fought to keep baby Constancia. For some children, being adopted represents a chance for a better life. But there are other families who claim they're torn apart by the social services without good reason, and they say it's a life-changing injustice. Laura Emmett, RT, London.
You are listening. You can take that off. To Axiom Flux Season 3, Show 15. It is May 14th, 2017, and happy Mother's Day to those of you out there who are mothers. Today's show, not necessarily a joyous show, but something as mothers we should be looking at. We're calling the show Child Stealing by the State. Yeah, that's right. Child Stealing by the state. What's that mean? What's that all about? What is the state? Who owns your kids? That's pretty important to know, because most of us think we do. At least we pay for all of their various monies and things to raise them. They say it costs over $100,000 a year to raise, or not a year, $100,000 in a lifetime, $250,000, something like that. It goes up to what it costs to raise a child in America. And yet the state seems to have more rights than you, the parent, do. So today's show here on Axiom Flux Season 3, Show 15, we're going to be talking about child stealing by the state. We've got a special guest who's going to be coming along. We're still trying to get her into his house. Her name is Kathleen Arthur, and she is working on a case or to bring, she's an activist. In fact, actually, let me go over here because although we're not yet having her on the air, we're waiting for her to get with us. She is trying, I understand that, and knowing the way the Google system works, we're really going to have a fun time. But I want to go back real quick here, because one of the things that I did get PJ Tansley, who is, of course, I consider him the producer of this show. He actually has given me a real good overview. Let's see if I can find it here. Where did he put it? It's on here. And this is a good introduction to the person we're looking to have on tonight's show. I am a quantum activist, so if you can prove that God exists, what are you going to do about it? Yep, I have a lot of political views. Now I realize this is Catholic speaking, of course. I'm a quantum activist. Most of my philosophy is politics having to do with healthcare, aligned with the democratic philosophy. I was born into an Irish Catholic democratic family, and a Democrat I remain. Some issues to support, others to make better. This is a code for change. I have been a party leader for quite a few years now, and I still can not find a logical decision between path for many of the issues that Democrats and Republicans seem so adamant about. Kill a fetus or kill a prisoner. The answer to me is very complicated. However, the political views of the top two parties are certain that their view is universally correct. Me, I am still thoughtfully praying to always make the correct decision at the right point of time. And you know what? Wow, what a statement by somebody. I'll be looking forward to talking with her here as soon as we can get her hooked up. And if for some reason we can't, have you got her video up there? I see we got video of her playing, or up on the screen. This is Kathy up there that I come back. This is Kathy Arthur. Can we play her video? Or do we want to do?
Yeah, shall I hit it?
I'm sorry?
Shall I hit it then?
Yeah, let's go ahead and show Kathy's video.
Here we go then.
Hi, this is Kathy Arthur again, and I'm on the 3rd floor of the Russell Building, and I have seen all the legislative aides on floors 1 through 3, and I have played them the clip of the social worker right to life federal case number 15-55563, and I have given them the news article, the one and only news article about our social workers' right to lie case. This case is one step away from the Supreme Court. And the question is, do social workers have the constitutional right to lie? And if they plant evidence and lie, are they immune from this or not? This is being heard in our federal court. The closing arguments have been done, and now they are awaiting the decision. If the federal court decides to go ahead and allow this, that means that our social workers, they're going to set the precedent all over America that the social workers have the constitutional right to lie, commit perjury, plant evidence, and take your child. That is exactly what this case is about. There has been one news article on this issue. This is a fundamental right to parent issue, and our news medias are not doing a good job on it. Our news medias have turned into a gossip column. I'm surrounded by them here. They're all over the place. And what are they covering? They're covering Donald Trump. They're covering Hillary Clinton. But they're not covering the fact that our government is stealing our children and have the right to lie. They have the right to take our children, and we have no recourse because the social workers are immune. So I've gone to all the senators on the first, second, and third floor in the Russell building, and they are appalled. I played them the clip on the right to life case, which is a federal case, one step away from the Supreme Court. None of them have even heard of this. They're relying on their news from the media, who's covering gossip, but they're not covering real news that's going to affect people. And so anyway, so that's why I'm here. I have to claim from Washington. I have the federal court case clip, and I've got the news article, and I'm going door to door, and they are horrified. They cannot believe it. They can't believe they haven't heard of this. So I'm going to keep going on it, and I'm going to report some real news. Not how Trump's doing today, not how Hillary is doing today. I'm going to report stuff like, do social workers have the constitutional right to lie and plant evidence to take your children? Boy, that's a federal court case issue. It's gotten that bad to where hearsay, which is allowed in family court, has evolved into a right to lie for social workers and plant evidence. So that's real news, and that's what I'm going to be here taking care of. It's my only mission. I've come with a big problem, but I have two solutions that will take care of it. Number one is we must remove hearsay for family court. Hearsay is not allowed in federal court or in criminal court, but hearsay, which is basically the right to lie, is allowed in family court, and that has evolved into this horrific situation where now social workers are they're targeting poor children who qualify for 4E and disabled for removal from their home and adoption. It's a form of legal kidnapping. So I'm here. I got one more floor to do. I'm going to do the heart tomorrow probably. But anyway, I'm mad as hell, and I'm going to get this out to them, and we got to stop them from being able to steal our children. So I'm still working. Well, see you later. Bye.
Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it, folks? Stealing your children from you. Of course, that years ago, we used to think that the government watching us was like conspiracy theory, and now we know it's more conspiratorial, if you will, to think they're not watching you. It's a little bit more insane to realize, after all of the things that we've learned through WikiLeaks and through all of the things that have been put out there that we can actually see now. It's just a lot of what we live in, we're overseen, we're distrusted. In fact, you've got to now prove that you're innocent. You're assumed to be guilty first, so you've got to prove your innocence. It used to be that you were innocent until you were proven guilty. Total other way around now. Believe me, I've seen this in my own life and in the things that are happening in the world. And if we let this kind of thing happen, by the way, it sets a precedent. And that's the thing. When there's court cases, I realize I'm talking now about America because this case he's talking about, and I want you all to go research it. It's case 15-55563. I'll call it Hardwick versus Rican. It's in the Ninth Circuit Court. It's a federal case. And I hope we can get our guest on here. Of course, you saw her a few moments ago. She's working really diligently, I'm sure, to try and get herself on here. But the way technical stuff works nowadays, not always as good. But we will cover all of this together. Guys, I want to say thank you for all being here, those of you who are listening, watching. And I also want to thank PJ, of course. He's basically, I call him my show producer. He does an excellent job of getting all this stuff together. We also got Paul, we got Stav here with us, waiting in the house. Hi, guys.
Good evening.
So what's up with you? What's going on? Let's just touch base before we get into the heart of things and see what your just general thoughts are. Stav, what's going on in your head? How are you thinking about what's just been shared so far?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I seem to be having technical problems my side. I listened to it. I could hear it. I couldn't.
Good. That's what's more important. Seeing stuff in this particular case, by the way, was just people talking for the most part.
Okay, that's all right. Yeah, but I'm not clued up on the whole of the case by case stuff, but I know how the system works and what they've been doing, and it's child abduction by the state is a kind way.
Well, you're saying you're not familiar with the case. Let's take a look at just an article that's on the internet regarding this case. It says federal case. This is actually, and I should give credit to this, is the Chronicle of Social Change. I don't know if it's a right or left website. I really don't care. I'm not on either side of things. I just want to see what is true. So let's take a look at this and see what's happened. It's written by John Kelly, October 12th, 2016. It says, is it constitutional for a caseworker to lie in court? If that question comes across as one with an obvious answer, consider that a court case on the subject is one stop away from the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit Court, Hardwick versus Frieken, last week, an extension of the long-running court battle involving Diane Fogarty Hardwick, her two daughters, and the child welfare system in Orange County, California. There's a click on this site, and I will link this, I guess, if you're watching on the, let's see here, copy this real quick. I'm going to put it over on the timeline. Well, let's see if I can put it, forget it. Anyway, let me go on with reading. We'll worry about this later. It says, which began a custody battle involving child welfare workers committing judicial deception to facilitate the removal of the daughters from Diane, and has resulted in far more than 10 million in judgments against Orange County. The three-judge panel from the Ninth Circuit Court last week heard oral arguments in appeal of a case involving Presley Hardwick, one of the daughters, versus Marsha Frieken, one of the Orange County caseworkers found in previous lawsuits to have intentionally deceived the court. Attorneys for Frieken have appealed to the Ninth Circuit based on the argument that while state code might instruct caseworkers not to lie, there is no case or precedent to suggest that their lying is unconstitutional. Oh, what a mismanagement of words. Here is the basic argument on behalf of the caseworkers. As the government workers, they are entitled to qualified immunity from prosecution in federal court unless a two-pronged test can be passed. First, constitutional rights must have been violated. Second, attorneys argued it must be clearly established that the government workers know without a doubt that their actions would indeed be violations of the law. They argued in this case, at the time the removal occurred in 2000, state law and federal case precedent did not clearly establish to caseworkers that lying and or presenting false evidence would deprive Ms. Fogarty Hardwick of her constitutional rights. Now, Youth Services Insider would caution anyone at any time from reading too much into the judge's questions and reactions during oral arguments. But suffice to say, the judges were skeptical of this argument. In particular, Judge Stephen Trott, a longtime member of the court, appointed by Ronald Reagan in 1987. How in the world could a person in the shoes of your clients possibly believe that it was appropriate to use perjury and false evidence to remove a child from a parent? Trott asked. How could they possibly not be in notice that you can't do that? And in fact, you can actually see that all presented. There is videos available on the internet to watch it. That might have been an ethical, they might have been based on ethical guidelines or morality, but not based on clearly established law, attorneys argued. You mean due process is somehow consistent with a government worker introducing perjured testimony and false evidence, Trott asked? I can't even believe for a nanosecond that a caseworker wouldn't understand you can't lie and put in false evidence. The oral arguments are 23 minutes long and can be viewed it's on YouTube. You can go look at it. I watched it a couple of times. It certainly sounds from a discussion as though the judges are not impressed with the notion that, absent from a precedent here, workers could have reasonably believed it was okay to make up stuff to influence a child welfare removal. If they rule against Frieken, and this is appealed, perhaps we will see a Supreme Court case that sets once and for all that child welfare caseworkers violate constitutionally guaranteed rights of parents if they lie to effect a removal. And believe me, this is one court case, one out of so much crap going on in the world right now. Let's go talk. Go ahead.
What a complete misnomer. It's obvious that your rights have been violated if somebody's committed perjury in a court of law to cause you harm or loss.
Well, it's perjury, isn't it? Isn't perjury I thought
perjury is when you lie in a courtroom knowingly.
Well, they do lie knowingly.
Yeah.
Well, and again, the whole idea of this is do caseworkers have a right?
No, nobody's got a right
to lie. No, but if you watch this case, if you watch it, this woman keeps saying, okay, we all know morally this is okay. I mean, this is not okay. But there's these little nuances we need to look at that have to do with yada, yada, yada. It's like she's just trying to say it's okay to lie if we just can get, if we deem that something is like these kids are in trouble, like maybe their parents might have smoked pot 2 weeks ago, you know, that might make them in trouble. Then we want to know this, and then we want to like get them out of the home, because, you know, obviously it's much better to take a child out of their parents' home for the smoking of pot or whatever the hell they're trying to.
Then they should put forward that the parents are smoking pot, not lie about something else to convict them.
Well, the problem is that the law, we don't even know in some cases what the lies are. This is a sad situation, because CPS, children here in the United States, we call it CPS, or Children's Protective Services, and it's supposed to protect our kids.
Over here it's the social services, which is the SS. See, Carl.
That's about it, sadly. And it is very sad this is going on. I see our guest has not yet arrived. I think what I would really suggest, and more so, I've taken so many notes, but I ran into a video. I'm going to go ahead and play it. I think I can do this on my system here. I'm going to try and see if I can open up my screen, full screen on this other thing here, and still, wait a minute, what happened here? I got to go back. Hold on. Oh, the crazy things of technology these days just to get things going. I got to get on to, let's see.
I got it in.
Oh, do you? Okay. What I'm going to do is, because she's not here yet, we can stop this at any time. I think you'll get the gist of this. And most of my notes that I took, by the way, for today's show, came from a guy by the name of Carlos Morales. I was trying to dig in to find out more about this whole idea that CPS can come in. I was trying to what is the motive, and what are they really trying to do? So what I want to do is I guess I'm going to go ahead and let this get played, and if our guest comes on, we may, bump it at some point. But go ahead and play that video. This is Carlos Morales. He's a former CPS investigator. I don't need to say anymore.
Okay, can you see the screen?
Yeah, I can. Go ahead. Push play and open the full screen. Now I can't. Okay, there we go. Now hit full screen.
Full screen.
And push play.
Volume.
Even though it's committed atrocity after atrocity.
Turn your sound up.
Children and families in mind. I'm guilty of working for an agency that's hampered freedom repeatedly, that has done things that are so unconstitutional that it would make the DEA blush. I'm guilty of working for an agency that has promoted the drug war in a way, again, that would make the DEA blush. So we remove children for the faults of their parents, but those faults aren't for them smoking pot while they were in high school. I'm guilty of working for an agency that has thrown children in foster homes, that has kidnapped children and thrown them in foster homes, where they are 6 times more likely to die than in abusive homes. I'm guilty of working for Child Protective Services. Within CPS, we hurt. We did not help. Did what Adolf Hitler always spoke of, which is to take control of children. Because by doing so, you take control of the future. Was following the Prussian system, the United States took over children first for public education, but now they do it for the state ownership of children. Because within the United States, the parent does not own the child. The state does. Within Child Protective Services, there's always this claim that all the bad things that occur because of a few bad apples, because of a few bad individuals. That's why they have a bad reputation. Not that the entire agency is based on the idea that it is important to remove children from their homes. It's based around the idea that you are guilty until proven innocent. We used force, not finesse, because that's all the state knows. That's all the state can do. It's time to take it back to me. In my first case, which was my best case, we went into a home. When we got there were DEA agents swarmed around the house, and I could hear the DEA speaking badly about one of the parents. I saw the door. The door had been broken open. was no electricity to knock out this terrible smell. And I was just stunk the entire house. I turned around the corner and I saw another door that had been broken in, and I realized what the smell was. It was the shit of children, fecal matter, all on the walls, all on the floor. Because that's where the drug dealers were storing their drugs. In order to prevent people from coming in and stealing it, it was a way to prevent that. Of course, this kind of disgusting display of actions by drug dealers would be impossible without the drug war, which is funded by the state. You know, that's kind of outside the point. What occurred afterwards was I left the house and I heard a woman screaming. The woman was the mother. She was begging for her child, and stating that it was because of a bad situation that they were in the home. They had only been there for a few days. We weren't able to figure out whether or not that was true, but we could tell that this woman was in quite despair. The CPS investigator I was with, well, she didn't really care. She showed a lack of empathy. A lack of empathy that is all around the agency. The woman cried, and the investigator actually laughed at her despair. I heard some other people speaking. They were running towards the house. They were the neighbors. They were family members. And they begged to be able to keep the children, to prevent them from going to the foster home. And even though supposedly Child Protective Services aims to keep families together, there wasn't even an attempt to check if these children should go with that family. They were yelling about how foster homes are places where children are routinely molested, drugged, and abused. And the investigator I was with yet again laughed at this idea. And in my mind, in my naive mind, I thought, we're the heroes today. We're the ones who are preventing these kids from living a bad life. I threw them in the back of my car. We drove off. Threw them in a foster home. And again, I felt like I was a hero. But in those foster homes, those kids were drugged. They're abused. They're thrown into another public system. And they were no better off than when we first got there. In any case, they were much worse off. And you got to kind of ask yourself, who is an investigator? Who are these people who are taking children away? Well, it's not like they're well prepared for what they're doing. You see, in Child Protective Services, all you need is a bachelor's degree. And that bachelor's degree, in some cases, was a degree in saxophone jazz from Berklee College of Music. That, coupled with 2 months of training, is what it's an investigator. That investigator has to be a therapist because they have to be able to tell when someone is lying. They also have to be able to ask questions without bias to children who are 4 years old. They have to be a police officer because they have to go into highly dangerous situations or what they believe highly dangerous situations. They have to be a judge because they have to be able to dictate what's going to occur to these people. And they have to be a psychic because they have to use the powerful tool of violent central planning to dictate exactly what's going to happen to these people. Be able to guess their wonderful aura of imagination what's going to occur to these children. There is a hero complex, and there's a cultural martyrdom that goes on in Child Protective Services. Because what you're told is that you're the one who's going to help all these children. You're the one who's going to save all the kids, and you're God Almighty. You see, what happens is, it's not as Alex Jones puts it, where there's a bonus given for every single child that is kidnapped by a secret investigator. No. You see, what happens is that you get reviewed every month. And for every child that has been kidnapped from their home, the investigator is given a raise by the end of the year. You see, the locus of control is always removed by investigator to investigator, from supervisor to the state, in order to not have to have the feeling of self-responsibility. And while removing that locus of control, you can always blame any kind of inaccuracies or terrible atrocities that occur on someone else. So it's never as in front, it's never as clear that simply you're given a bonus for every child that you steal. But in many, many ways, you're still considered the hero, because the person who removes 3 kids in a week, well, that person's applauded. The person who prevents 3 children being removed in a week. Without this, it's totally easy. And what I saw in Child Protective Services was not the prevention of abuse, because physical abuse was rarely what we ever dealt with. I'm an individual who recognizes and acknowledges the fact that physical abuse traumatizes a child in ways that we can't even possibly imagine. Study after study shows that even though we use the term spanking, it really is a violent action against children, but in Child Protective Services, spanking isn't what's incorrect. No, you're allowed to get away with that. What's incorrect is physical and emotional neglect, which are 2 terms that are easily abused, and are abused by Child Protective Services. You see, if you admit to using marijuana on a weekend when you weren't with the kids, that's considered emotional and physical neglect, and that can lead to the removal of children. Because again, we're just continuously using the drug war to destroy these families. But what's even worse is the kind of evidence that we used. You see, an anonymous reporter can call in to Child Protective Services and say, oh, these parents, they're molesting children, they're abusing them, they're snorting cocaine on their asses of their children, they're part of the mafia, they have guns. See, they can make up whatever they want, and Child Protective Services will go out and carry out the investigation, which we will ask 4-year-old children if they've ever been touched by their parent. But again, we're using shaky evidence based off the memory of the memory of the memory of the memory of another individual. And supposedly with that, that's enough evidence to call for the removal of a child. And what's best is that even if we're able to disprove every single claim, if we can get the parent to admit to anything in regards to drugs, we still get the removal. Even if the claim and allegations weren't even in regards to that, we can still use it to take them away. And you have to wonder, why is it Child Protective Services has the incentive to take away children and not to help them out? Well, it's because for every civil removal Child Protective Services gets, that's another grant that the state will give them. Because Child Protective Services is based off of this system. And the collusion between foster homes and CPS is even more tragic. Because you see, foster homes get more money for every single child that they get. This is how we have 650,000 kids right now in foster homes. But what makes it worse is that for every single diagnosis of child gets, that foster home is given more money. Now, these diagnoses, they're not the child being paralyzed. You see, what happens is you take a child, throw them into a state hospital, and then that's where they come up with the diagnosis. You see, if a kid is removed from his church's community, coming to the foster home where he's more likely to be abused, raped, doesn't want to be, that kid might lash out. You might go against the door. You might get to school, you might have the education that dictates of an adult who he does not know. What's not the situation that's wrong? It's not that the social order that's wrong. No, it's that that kid is suffering from a mental illness. It needs to be remedied through the use of drugs. See, that kid, according to them, has oppositional defiant disorder, ADHD, manic depression, schizophrenia, and insomnia. Well, that's now several diagnoses that that child has, which means more money for the foster home. And this is how you get 80% of foster children being diagnosed with a mental disorder. 80%. And those children, on average, being in those foster homes for 2 years. These drugs, they're not light. There are 9 million children in the United States on antipsychotic medication. Medications with over 40 side effects. And there's no clinical tests on these kids because they consider that to be immoral. No, they make guinea pigs out of children. They make guinea pigs out of people in the midst of their development, at the worst points of their life. And what's even worse is when your child ends up in foster home, well, that's when you have to go to court. See, but the issue is that the judge and the prosecutor are paid by the same people. And those people benefit from those children being removed. I've had judges check their email in the middle of court cases while a mother is crying And I've seen judges laugh at these people because they think they're irresponsible and terrible because CPS stated so. It's so unconstitutional that it makes it kind of hurt because there's no jury. It's all the dictates of the judge. It can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to try and get out of the case. I was recently helping out someone who was in West Virginia, and it cost them $200,000 to try and disprove a claim that their child is being molested. And is there any kind of money given back to them? Of course not. Because this is a game for them. I've heard prosecutors, defense attorneys, and judges joking outside of the courtrooms about the cases that they're involved in. So what you have to think about it is, what do you do if Child Protective Services comes after you and your family? There's a good chance that we're all one or the way, your parent, Child Protective Services coming after you. First off, if your child is in public school, like, get them out. But I mean, if you can't, what you have to do is let your child know about CPS, even if they're 5 years old. Which sounds daunting, it sounds terrible, but you see, because Child Protective Services in the state owns a child, they can come to a child at any point and ask them questions. And that's what builds their evidence. You see, as an investigator, I would go out to public schools, remove a child from the classroom that you might now already want to be in, throw them in a room, usually a dark room, where the child is scared, and there's a large Hispanic man who's asking questions regarding sexual molestation by his parents. The child probably wants to leave, probably wants to get out, and he might answer yes or no to questions that he doesn't understand. And what the child does not realize is that a yes or no is sealing his fate. That's why you need to let your child know about CPS and to know that no matter what question they ask, tell the CPS investigator, I do not want to talk to you. No matter what, no matter how pushy they are, just simply say, I don't want to talk to you. Now, if you got to that point, what occurs next is the CPS investigator coming to your home. Hello, my name is Dan. I'm from Child Protective Services. Can I please come into your home? This is where you state no. Although I'm not the biggest fan of the Constitution, you still have the Fourth Amendment, and occasionally gets to be respected. A Child Protective Service investigator is not allowed into your home unless he has a warrant. And if it's an anonymous report, well, then he has nothing. He can't get a warrant. The actual amount of paperwork and judges and everyone else that has to go through in order to get a warrant is incredibly daunting to an investigator who's probably bored and inefficient in their job because he's a state worker. So don't let them inside your house. If you let them inside your house, they can use 3 dirty plates. Right? They'll use 3 dirty plates as evidence of hoarding and be able to remove your kid for that. And it's occurred. It's not a joke. So don't let them in. The investigator will then ask you questions. They'll ask you about your family history. They'll ask you about domestic violence. They'll ask you about how you're raised as a kid. And they might be gentle. They might be nice when they do it. But they're not your fucking therapist. Okay? No matter what has occurred in your life, do not admit that you were abused as a child because they'll use that as evidence against you. Do not admit that your husband ever hit you because they'll use that as evidence against you. This was actually the mother admitted that her husband, his husband though, had been out of the house for 3 years and they still removed the child. Risk factor. So don't admit anything. Record the interview. No matter what, get a recording device, get out your phone. Most people have smartphones, but if you have even a tape recorder that you buy for $1 at a Goodwill, use it. Because the interview that is given to the investigator, well, it's not given word to word. That's not how the report is written. It's the summary of the investigation. So based off of the biases of that investigator, that's how they write the report. A lot of times through memory. And then they'll use that against you. So make sure you record everything. Say as little as possible. They're looking for contradictions. What's important, don't trust them. They are not looking to help you. They are the enemy. They may ask for a drug test. Now this is where you have to decide. Usually what they have is an oral drug test. They put it in your mouth. You have to wait like 2 or 3 minutes until the saliva gets in, and they'll be able to tell what drugs you're on. If you have not used any forms of medication in the last 3 days, if you have not smoked marijuana, used Quaaludes, or any other drug in the last 3 days, you're probably going to pass this test and it'll be fine. If not, they're most likely going to try to get a warrant, if the allegation is one of drug use, to do a urine sample test. And it gets a little bit more tricky here. I will state there are some websites and maybe head shops that sell things which allow you to pass those tests. I'm not going to go into too much detail there, but I'm sure you can find it yourself with just a little internet search. Say no to private interviews with the child. They will manipulate the child in order to try to get information. If the allegation is of physical abuse, you can bring your child up to the door and lift up their shirt to show that there is no bruising, and you can bring the child to a doctor afterwards, and they will take pictures to show that there's no physical abuse, and you will keep that report. Do not give that report back to the CPS investigator unless you end up in court. Expect coercion and write everything down. See, what you want to do is you want to keep a journal. On that journal, you want to write on the header, notes to my attorney. This ensures attorney-client confidentiality, and this will prevent them from being able to use it in court. In that journal, write notes on every meeting, notes on every visitation, notes about the court hearings, notes on anything out of the ordinary that occurs, counseling appointment notes, notes about if there's a psychological evaluation, a record of all drug testing results, and any visitation notes if you get to that situation. If you go to court, lawyer up. There's no way to win unless you yourself are a lawyer. You see, judges don't trust the parents. They may trust attorneys. Make sure you get a family court lawyer though, because most lawyers are not equipped to be able to fight in a court case where the Constitution is absolutely not respected, and neither are any of the normal laws of the land. Now, we have to realize is why this is important to activists. Anyone who fights against the system will be fought against by the system. I actually left Texas before I even made any claims about ever working for Child Protective Services on my podcast, the Renegade Variety Hour. I was afraid. I was afraid of what CPS could do. Now, thankfully, I don't have any kids. I'm not married. My siblings are all over 18, so the people that they can attack are limited. But if you have a family, and say you're a marijuana activist, well, in Austin, Texas, they kidnapped a kid for a parent being a marijuana activist, and that kid died in foster home. Don't fuck around. Don't smoke weed in public if you're a parent. I know to some of the civil disobedience folks, it seems like you're giving up. It's not. Fight for your causes, but realize that they will come, and they will come for you. I think, in conclusion, Child Protective Services is a system that profits off of converting children into cash while destroying their families and communities. Stay strong, stay righteous in your indignation towards this system, towards this criminal enterprise. And I will continue to fight against this criminal organization with every breath I take. Thank you.
Okay, did that come out? Everybody get that okay?
It was very broken up my end. I could barely understand what he was saying.
Well, let's go through some of the points that he made. I think that's what's important here. By the way, I want to point out you're listening to Axiom Flux. This is season 3, show 15. We're talking about child stealing by the state. That is our topic for today. And I'm sorry for those of you. You can go to the video itself. I'm sure it showed there on the screen. You can go look it up on YouTube and check it out if you want another. Our show is about information. We're not trying to be all technically wonderful. What we want is to put information out there to get people to think, because it's important. You're thinking. If you're not thinking, then somebody else is probably thinking for you. So it's important you do the thinking, you as individuals, and you make the judgments as to what's right or wrong or whatever. And our guest has still not arrived. We're waiting and hoping for Kathleen Arthur to join us. She was on the video earlier, and I wanted to point out some things though about this case too. This is kind of a big deal. I wanted to bring up a video. Let's see here. That oh golly, I thought I had it all set up, but I went over here and posted somewhere else. Let's see if I can get back to it. Okay. I want to find this right spot here on this thing and then start playing it, because I think you guys will be interested in this. This is amazing to watch a courtroom in action, and I think it's important in this particular case to get an idea of what actually goes on in a courtroom and how ridiculous it is. I want you to watch this very carefully, realizing, okay, that in essence this woman in the case is suggesting that her client be allowed to lie. Now, you won't hear it quite like that, but I think you'll get it. I'm gonna go ahead and set this up so I can play it off my system, because this wasn't my intent. But at the same time, I think this is essentially what we're dealing with now that we need to be looking at. And again, who owns the kids? Is it you or is it the state? Guess what? It ain't you. So and this should show that clearly. Plus, it also should show how in the world. First of all, how. I guess I'm having trouble realizing how in the world this woman is, let's see if I can figure out how to get to this here. Okay, screen share. I'm gonna go into screen share. We're gonna go, here we go. I'm gonna go right to this one here. All right, let's see. What I'm gonna do is open this up and play it. This is the actual case, by the way. This is what we're referring to. And if you want to research it yourself, you can go to Hardwick versus Freakin. It is case 15-55563. In the court. And this is about, I want to remind people, this is about two people fighting over children and all this stuff that's gone on and trying to keep their kids. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I understand everything about this full case. All right. There's other elements to this, but this right here should not only amaze you, it should frighten you, is the way I look at it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play it here real quick for you. I'm going to open up full screen. Hopefully you can see it. I think I'm on. Yeah, just making sure here. Coming back for a second. All right, now we're gonna open up full screen. We're gonna play this. I want you to watch this. This is an actual court case. This is, you can see the number there, 15-55563. This is Presley Hardwick versus Marsha Freakin. Are you ready for this? This is almost unbelievable. Before I go on, I should probably check. Can you see the screen and hear it?
I've got the screen. No audio.
No audio. Okay. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to.
Well, can I just interrupt you, James, for a moment? Because I think we might have Kathleen on the line.
Hey.
Using a different method, as you know, the Google Hangouts isn't very user friendly tonight for Kathleen, so we will give it a go and we'll see how it turns out.
Sounds fine to me.
Can everybody hear it? Everybody okay?
Yeah, I can silent hear.
Is that all right, Kathleen?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, now over to you then, James.
Well, I can.
Can you hear us okay, James?
James may have switched off onto another system.
I think we've lost James's audio there. Hello, James. Can you hear us?
I think he's busy playing his video.
All right, is that what it is? Okay, well, meanwhile, while we wait for James, I'd just like to give Kathleen Arthur a very warm welcome. And we've probably got another hour left on this show, So let's start by just asking Kathleen to tell us a little bit about herself, so the viewers can get a little idea of who you are and what it is that got you into doing what you do.
Okay, great. Well, basically, before all of this government overreach, I happily had a career of being a nurse in a nursing research for over 30 years. And I was also a foster mother off and on for over 30 years. And then one of my grandchildren were disabled, and the local children's division decided that they were just going to have him, and that was all that there was to it. And the corruption that we witnessed was just awful. I could not believe they were getting away with the lies and the evidence planting and all that sort of thing that was going on. And I actually, at the first time, I really assumed it was just a bad social worker. But then just by happen chance, we went through this 3 times, and 3 times we had a miracle. And the kids came to us. One time, one of the social workers died in court, and I did CPR. And then the other time, we hired a lawyer who did not know was also a judge for the county. And then the 3rd time, what happened the 3rd time? Anyway, it was just really completely, the 3rd time, the FBI actually got involved with one of the children, and the Children's Services does not want to give their records to the FBI. So they discharged the child instead. So we had really weird circumstances to where we ended up safely having our grandchildren out of foster care. And they're now protected because of a wonderful family in California who started in the year 2000, who were assaulted by the government agencies with lies and evidence planting in order to take their children away. And she just did not take no for an answer, and we fought and fought and fought for 16 years. And what the fight was about was just a simple constitutional question. Do social workers, or any government official for that matter, have the right to lie and to plant evidence in order to take your children? Can you believe that was even a question? But it was. And the reason why it was a question was that the district attorneys, the family court district attorneys all over in every single state of the nation, assumed what's called immunity of a government official and hearsay, which is basically a right to lie. And so they did not let this question go for a constitution check, right? If you don't know the answer to something, as a lawyer, you either look for past practice or you go ahead and do what's called well, one way to do it is a declaratory judgment, and then there is another way to do it, a summary judgment. And so the summary judgment was published on January 3rd, 2017, just a little while ago. And basically what it says is, no, you can't lie. No, government officials can't lie. No, hearsay is not a lie. No, even little lies are not good. Anyone, whether it's a district attorney or a social worker, who knowingly enters false evidence, even little false evidence, little lies, have committed crimes, right? It says that right here. If you look it up, it's federal case number 15-55563. And when you look at the ruling that has been published, it says right there inside of the ruling that crimes have occurred, right? But there haven't been any arrests made because the person who committed the crime is the social worker who put in the false information, and then the district attorney who's under an extreme amount of pressure to get positive rulings, because if they get a negative ruling, if the parent wins, then they have to give up all of the Title 4E funding that they have received from the government, which is about $500,000 per child when they get to the point of a dependency hearing. So there's just extreme pressure on the social workers and the DAs to get this child, into the foster care system and up for adoption in order to keep their base bureaucracy business flowing. And in the last 10 or 15 years, and like I said, I've been a foster mother for 30 years, so this has evolved over time, and I've watched it. over time, the right to lie has gone from a little bit of hearsay here and there to full out planting of medical quotes into people's court records and outright forging of documents, et cetera, et cetera. It's got very bad. But because of the assumed immunity, no one could arrest them. So now the judges said, no, they don't have immunity. Any government official who lies or, puts false evidence in to try to, take your civil rights away from you, which is the right to due process, no, they're criminals, but no arrests have been made. And why is that? Well, the reason for that is that every county in America has basically two district attorneys. One is a criminal district attorney, and the other one is a family court district attorney. The family court is funded by Title IV of the Social Security Act for child support, for foster care, for all kinds of things. Family court has always allowed hearsay. Criminal court has not. So this is just family court. If you're a district attorney in the family court and you allowed evidence that you know was perjured or untrue, you have just committed a crime. This is clear now. So who arrests you? It will have to be the criminal DA who is sitting on the other side of your desk in the same office, or even worse, many counties have a dual function of a criminal DA and the family DA who's one person. So you would have to arrest yourself. So this is a judicial glitch. All of the state, every single district attorney in every single state of America held and would not let the constitutional question of do they or do they not have the right to lie, and do they or do they not have immunity if they do lie. They were held. It was not allowed to go to the federal level constitutional check by all of the district attorneys. One sort of case or this of another has gone in every single one of the states of the United States, and it has been blocked by the district attorneys because if they clarify that they do not have the right to lie, then they not only do not have the right to lie, but their past practice was criminal.
Mm-hmm.
So I take it we have Kathy on?
Oh, welcome back, James. Yeah, we've got Kathleen.
Oh, hi, Kathleen. It's good to have you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry, I had some technical issues earlier, and that created some problems. I was trying to show the actual ridiculousness of this court case as it was presented, and how even the justices were sitting there kind of in awe of the fact that the idea of lying was okay. I couldn't get that. Is that what you got out of it? Was like, hey, if you're with the government, you get to lie.
Right. They had a presumed immunity, and it was presumed because social workers were immune, and it was their past practice because they would not let a constitutional check occur. Okay, so the states basically held the constitutional check hostage. They held the constitutional check kidnapped. They would not let it go from the state level to the federal level. So this case, the 15-55563, is the very first case that got through from the state level to the federal level, and it was on a technicality date error. It was an accident that it got through.
Yeah, it's an incredible case if you actually watch the thing. I took some time and watched some of the court proceedings, and I couldn't even believe that there was any questioning of it just seemed like she was saying, well, under certain circumstances we're allowed to lie. And that's what I was feeling out of it. Now, was I reading that wrong, or?
I'm going to try to play this.
It's appropriate to use perjury and false evidence in order to impair somebody's liberty, interest, in the continued care, custody, and control of that person's children. How could they possibly not be on notice that you can't do that?
Yes.
How could that possibly be?
I understand the argument that seems to be common sense and on
It's not statutes.
So that was a
Yeah, I was trying to play that earlier. That's how I lost my connection. But yes, exactly. When I watched that whole little scene there, to me, it just seemed like she was evading. I hate to say it, but there was a certain amount of, pardon my politics, but Trumpism, where you just sort of dissuade and move things around in another direction. You know, she seemed to be trying to evade the idea that lying was wrong.
It's a question of constitution, and we're here for you to answer it to us. That's what she said, actually, in one portion of it, that we're here to see the constitutionality of lying.
Oh, and I was looking at the case itself, and it's like, I mean, I have it up at the moment. This is the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit, and I'm just reading this thing. It says, the panel affirmed the district court's denial on summary judgment of absolute and qualified immunity to social workers who plaintiff alleged maliciously used perjured testimony and fabricated evidence to secure plaintiff's removal from her mother, and that this abuse of state power violated her Fourth and 14th Amendment constitutional rights to a familial relationship with her mother. The panel held that the social workers were not entitled to absolute immunity from claims that they maliciously used perjured testimony and fabricated evidence to secure plaintiff's removal. The panel held the plaintiff's complaint targeted conduct well outside of the social worker's legitimate role as a quasi-prosecutorial advocates in presenting the case. The panel held the defendant's case for qualified immunity was not supported by the law or the record. The panel determined that plaintiff produced more than sufficient admissible evidence to create a genuine dispute as to whether her removal from her mother's custody violated her constitutional rights. The panel further stated it could not conceive of circumstances in which social workers would not know and understand they could not use criminal behavior in a court setting to interfere with a person's fundamental constitutional liberty interest. And that's, I guess for me, that's probably, I was amazed when I read this, when I saw this. I was like, I couldn't believe anybody could act.
I want to go back and point out a couple of really important ones, okay?
Go ahead.
Page number 2. This was a summary judgment. This is what this document is. It's a summary judgment. And so what it says is, in the second paragraph, the panel held that the social workers were not entitled to absolute immunity from claims that they maliciously used perjured testimony and fabricated evidence. And in the next one, it says the panel could not conceive of any circumstances in which the social workers would not know and understand that they could not use criminal behavior in any court setting. These social workers were using criminal behavior in court settings. The district attorneys who allowed this testimony was using criminal behavior in court settings. This is called fraud upon the court. And the hallmark of fraud upon the court is the simplicity of the issue. Even a child knows that it's wrong to lie and plant evidence in order to take children away from their parents. It's a simple issue, but it was in a methodological way in all of the states held at the state level, so it could not go for federal constitutionality check, which means, and this is horrible, guys, for about the last 15 years, there's been children taken away unconstitutionally from their parents. And even worse, England and Australia and several other countries have based their child model on America's, which is horribly flawed. This is a national, awful problem.
It always seems to come back to money then. I mean, this is what I'm seeing is that there are people who in...
But the key is here. Every time I've gone to Washington, D.C. the last 2 years, there's a horrified group of people for foster care. And then there's a horrified group of people for child support antics and child support horrors. And, you know, we'd always meet up with each other, but we really didn't have anything in common. And we found out we do. We both are affected by family court corruption that is funded by Title IV. The dad's child support is Title IV-B. And what that is the government gives Title IV-B money to all the states to collect child support. When all of the states get this big lump of money whose sole purpose is to take money from one parent and well-being, only 29% of them get money. All the rest of that money goes into the state. So you're getting federal money to collect money from absent parents and give it to the state.
Well, and in essence, this becomes something that allows the CPS workers then to get their grant money, to get their employment benefits, because they get bonuses, don't they? When they remove a child, don't they get a bonus?
From the federal government. We do not need to be a collection agency. And Title IV-E money, the foster care money, they should all just go and have. We really just need to stop this whole blood-sucking, money-letting system of Title IV distributions because it's not working well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've been looking into this for a while. And as I was telling the guys here, I don't know how much you saw what we were talking about earlier with the show, but I mean, I have personal interest in this because I have a grandson who has some problems right now. CPS did get involved in this situation, and I'll tell you, the state, when they get involved in your family situations, it used to be in the years past when you had family situations, you dealt with it in your family. Now the state comes forward anytime there's a family situation, or even if they have a question, they can go to your 5-year-old, as I was saying earlier, and in a video we even saw this. You can go to your 5-year-old and question them and come up with all of these things. And the next thing you know, those things can be built into, in a sense, a fabricated evidence, which could, if this is the way they work it, these people could just say, hey, you know, this is what the child said. This is the evidence we have. Let's take them away. I mean, the child said they saw mom hit dad. It may have been out of love. It may have been one of these things where the love pat. But they saw it or they heard, and boom, they turned it into some kind of big thing where suddenly it's like, you know, everybody in the world has to be involved in this, and the state has to be involved. And I'll tell you something, when the state gets involved, guaranteed, it's the most complex and most painful thing you'll go through. We've been going through 2.5 years now almost of this case, dealing, and I will say, with my grandson, but it is something that is amazing because normally the kind of case that we're involved in the situation would have been something dealt familially. We would have dealt with it in family. We wouldn't have taken it and said, here, government, come on in, fix our problem. And it could have been fixed easily. Do you know that the government has become the prime abuser of my grandson at this point? And the victim,
It's state-sponsored abuse.
Oh, and it's gone on for 2 years. What my grandson did took minutes. Okay, minutes. What he has paid for is 2 years of having a thing around his leg, of having to deal with being publicly humiliated, including the newspaper that got leaked to a story and tried. And he is himself. I can't go into the case too far, but he himself is a victim. CPS got involved. They think his brother's a victim, which his brother is a victim too, but his brother's a victim for reasons I can't go into. But the point being that he himself, if this kind of situation should be in the hands of family to some degree to be able to deal with these kinds of problems. This was an interfamily problem, not the state. The state jumped in. Then the state got involved. We've been through 2 years plus of hell, almost $100,000 put into this case by my brother. Because we all know my grandson has reasons for why he did what he did and what happened, and we can show this. He's got counselors backing him up saying yes, but the state still, the DA, all of this is still coming after him. And he is now the victim. He is the victim of the state. And so, yeah, I agree. A lot of this stuff is just pure on BS. It's affecting families. And again, divide and conquer. Divide the family, you've got it all.
Yeah, well, it seems so the social services or state care or whatever you call it for respective countries, they've got it, now that they've got so many different things, they can tailor-make it for each family to take away children, so they can use any circumstances to get the child away from the family.
Well, and again, this works for a bigger goal if you really want to be conspiratorial about it, that you could say, hey, you know, divide and conquer. And once you divide and conquer a family, which is the key element to what we are as humanity, we start with our family, then we go to our tribe, which is our community, and then we move outward. But when we begin when we're divided from the very essence of the soul of who we are, we lose who we are, we lose our family relations, we lose connection, we lose, and then we're manipulatable by whatever wants to manipulate us. You want to think conspiratorial, put that Illuminati, New World Order, whatever term you want to put behind it. It still ends up being manipulated into a social system in which the state has complete legitimate control of your kids, except for, of course, the cost of them, which they're going to charge to you.
Yeah, well, the family is the foundation of the country, basically. So if they can break down individual families in a vast amount of numbers, they can bring down the country.
I want to go back to Kathleen since she's our special guest right now. And Kathleen,
I'm going to try and reconnect the call.
Were we disconnected? Oh, okay.
It did get disconnected. It's not been written at all for any connection tonight.
Welcome to technical problems.
Yeah, if I don't manage to connect it tonight, I will reschedule the show that was originally set out to do with another guest on the 28th of May. So.
Okay, no problem. We whatever we get, we work with. The point is, we're trying, and I think all of us, and even Kathleen would agree, this is not about our egos and getting our faces in front of people and making a big deal about being some kind. These are important things that have to do with what we should be aware of. In our countries, we are being given a false awareness. We're being given the media. The media is telling us how to think, where to put our focus. And what we're here in America, it's all about Trump and politics and all that crap, to the point where we're forgetting about the most important thing, which is human rights. The right to be you, the right to be me. Do I hear Kathy back? Kathy? Maybe not. Okay. Anyway, I wasn't sure. This is an important case. I think we all need to be looking at what the what the government is doing to control us as both individuals and our families and our communities. These are important things to look at. I know I'm kind of a joker and I laugh a lot, but this is a very serious point. That if we don't control these small, which I mean, they're not small, but if we don't control these things that may seem small to some people, and we look at these cases like 15-55563, and we examine that, we realize what this really means. What's the bigger picture? People aren't doing that. We're so busy focusing on the wrong things, America. And I don't know, maybe throughout the country, maybe we're all being led to look at the wrong things. Meanwhile, they're coming around stealing our children away from us. Not that they didn't always have them, and not that it wasn't always kids were state-owned. But once they start doing things like what they're doing now, where they allow, your 5-year-old child to be questioned, hey, does your mom and dad smoke? Yeah, does it smell funny? Hey, they might smoke pot. Let's go drug test them. That's the way our government has come to think. It wants to just go find people. And the big question is why? Why? What does it want? What is it really? It's all about money, guys. It really is. It's about the moving and generation of money. These organizations that take in kids make a certain amount of money. They get grant money because obviously the more people with the more kids taken away, they get a certain amount. There's certain benefits they get, like pay raises. Not that they're given bonuses for every child they take away, but in essence, every removal counts to their benefit because they did a great thing. They got a child out of a circumstance that was damaging to them.
The money is just a tool. It's just a tool for domination of world rule.
Well, and that's the basis of all of this. I mean, everything follow the frickin' money. Always, in everything. You got a question, guys, who rules the world? Follow the money. Very simple. It doesn't take brilliant,
It's simplicity in itself, isn't it?
It is, but most people don't look because we're taught not to. We're taught to see what they want us to see, not what we should see.
It's the black magician where it's getting you to look at the right hand when he's really doing all the bad stuff with the left hand.
Well, and as a person who made a lot of money in magic for years, I can tell you that's obviously the truth. The truth is that we live in a world where our politicians are verbal mental magicians. They have learned ways to get us. I mean, Trump got elected on what I consider verbal magic. He told everybody what they wanted to hear by saying nothing. Seriously, this guy got elected. This is more like last week's show, but the fact is, this guy got elected by saying what you wanted to hear. Not that he really said what you wanted to hear, but you thought he did.
An absolute email.
An absolute what the public wants. Yeah, what the public wants, the public gets at a price. And the price in this particular case was that I'm sorry, I don't really like giving my politics usually, but I am so totally disturbed by Trump being in office that I can't even believe that this man, who was a host of a show and maybe did some good business. I don't know if he did good business or bad. I really didn't follow him. I remember in the 80s it was real popular because it was the age of hedonism, and he was like the prime hedonist. And we just elected the Mr. Hedonism to office.
What real choice did you have between Trump or Clinton? You know, which is the worst of two evils?
Let's see. Do I want a killer or a liar? I have. It's like South Park said. It's the choice between a shit sandwich and a giant douche. It's exactly that. And that's what we had. And I was, I was kind of going for the giant douche over the shit sandwich. I'm not sure which was which, but I was going the other way. Not because I liked Hillary. Okay, I think she's a criminal. I'm familiar with the Clinton Chronicles. I followed that. I'm familiar with the Clinton family and all the crime involved and all that. But what family in America that's of any kind of merit to be able to rate themselves to be president or leader of this country, okay, was not a criminal to get there. You got to sell out somewhere. You didn't get there. You didn't. Trump, as much as people want to be like, oh, well, he's a rogue, no, he's not. No, he's not. He's not a rogue. He's following the predicted plan of where things are going, so he gets us off in another direction. So we think, okay, America's gone more right. So if I'm a right winger, I won. Okay, that's not true.
I think we've got Kath Lee back on.
Oh, Kath Lee, are you there?
Hi guys.
Hi.
I'm on a little cell phone in the middle of nowhere, so the coverage is not very good.
I know, we understand. We work on this idea that it's more important to get information out, and the people who really want the information it needs to get to will hear it. And so it's not important, how technically proficient we always are or whatever. What's most important is the information gets disseminated. And believe me, Kath Lee, you pointed out, I am so happy that PJ showed me where to go to watch your video, showed me a video, and then I went and I explored it further, and it really touched me. I mean, what you're doing is important, whether people want to give you that or not. What you're doing is so important. Thank you for standing up for those of us here in the United States who don't know these things and willing to put it out there and willing to risk yourself. And we don't see that's true heroism, in my opinion. Somebody who's willing to just say, you know what, I'm going to go take on something that's not going to be real popular, but needs to be heard. And so I value you for that. And the technical proficiency, don't worry about it. The right to lie is what we're talking about, and CPS and a case called 15-55563. Tell me, Kath Lee, one of the things that I know we've had some difficulty, but this is sort of important to me. What are your recommendations from your perspective of what the people listening can do to help support what you're doing?
We've lost her again.
Oh, no, important and crucial question. If we get her back, we'll ask her that. And if we have to have her back, this is important enough, by the way, we could do 2-3 shows on this, because this has to do with state control versus you control. Do you want to control your life? Do you believe that your kids are yours to make decisions for so long as you don't harm them? The question, of course, comes down to what is harming your kids. Is smoking a little weed on the weekend harming your kids? That's a good question. Huh? Let's put that out there for a second. What if I smoke weed and CPS comes to me, and I got kids? I don't, by the way, so I'm not worried about it. But if I have kids and I decide, which I do, I smoke. I'm in Oregon, for God's sakes. It's legal here. But what happens when it comes to federal law, which, by the way, it's still illegal by federal law, and that's what CPS is under, by the way. It doesn't necessarily look at your state and go, hey, well, pot's legal here, so you're okay. What it does is it says, all right, you smoke some pot on the weekend, you're still guilty of some form of abuse, of some form of neglect. How would that affect you? Think about it for a second. If you've got kids, and I see Predator, I see Jeff has joined us here. The Predator has come into his house. Hello, Predator, nice to see you here.
What up, Predator?
He's not talking. He's just looking mean at us right now. But anyway, what I really want to know, though, is her. I mean, I obviously, we played a video earlier that gave some suggestions by Carlos Morales, and I think he's kind of important to what we're doing. I would like to get him on the show. I would like to talk to Carlos Morales. If we can get PJ, little thing there, if you can get a hold of Carlos Morales and get him on the show, that'd be excellent. Because he's a former CPS investigator himself, and that to me says a lot. And the things that he had to say were some of the, I think, most concise and together things. We watched that video earlier, even though the sound quality may have been bad. You can go check it out on the net yourself. One thing he did say, I think it's important, is if you ever get in trouble, lawyer up and get a family court lawyer. Don't get, by the way, just what they give you. You got to go get special lawyers. I guarantee you, my grandson, my brother's money helped out a lot in my grandson's situation, because my brother's money is getting him the best lawyers we can get him, whereas most people are stuck with this, state attorney.
I think this is the basis they work on. They know the majority of the people can't afford all the legal fees and all that it costs the family.
So consequently, they can just walk in, and if your child said they saw mom hit dad, or whatever your child says, they can make up some dragons came into my house and ate my sister, and my dad swore, or your dad swore. Yeah, and then he smoked some pot. Oh, well, let's go get him. It's that kind of mentality of, and I guess I'm going to make a little predictive thing here as to why, part of why they're doing this is they want to institutionalize this all. Do you know what I mean by that? Get us all so the United States government becomes the institutional
nanny state.
Right. So that everything is just, and it is really kind of like it. We're just kind of fed this idea that somehow we have freedom, but freedom, really, you got to pay for it. If you really want freedom, you got to pay for it.
You got to stand up.
Money, though, not with their money. You'll never pay with their money, James, ever.
No. I agree. But the thing is, that how do we, I guess one of the big things I've been trying to figure out is how does a person work without the capital of the country in which they...
You can. It's possible. You decentralize yourself from them.
Well, if I go up into some forest somewhere and build a tent, and...
No, there are things that are happening. You just got to go and look for it.
Well, no, I understand. But it's difficult. I mean, I'm not in a position where I can go look much.
No, I know this, James. This is the question. Everybody's got to this point now. People that have woken up for years and years, and there is an answer there, right? But people will say, "Oh, well, that's no good to me. It's a load of baloney. It's a load of snake oil. It's a load of this." And these people who say this don't actually try it.
Well, it really comes down to changing our financial system, and a lot of people are way too comfortable in what is to question it and make it happen. And the problem is, unless we have a lot of people doing this stuff, it gets difficult. For instance, I have a roommate. She's very conventional, lives a life very standard to what, she works her job. She's not happy, but she doesn't really want to fight the system. That's not her thing. I'm the let's fight the system guy. But I want her to live comfortably. I want her to, I have a heart for people who just say, fuck it, I don't want to fight. I realize that there's people out there who, as much as they understand the problem, just have given up on saying, you know what, I just can't handle fighting.
Oh, well, I think, but these people are having their children taken off, and like Kathleen was saying, what choice do they have?
Well, my simple thing is, I think in a world that's so difficult as ours, your best bet is not
You
having.
can't, yeah, but you can't. I mean, what sort of parent? How would you feel? I mean, I remember being.
Well, I'm a parent of 3. Let me make this clear. I have 2 daughters and a son. Okay, I gave up my son for adoption. All right. Now that's a very sad fact, but in the case of my finances, I wasn't prepared for the $100,000 for the first 20 years or whatever it is. Okay, I had no money to be able to support him. I wanted him to be in a good home so I got to help place him, which is something I think is important if you're a good parent, at least, and you can't keep your child, you at least help to place them in a good environment.
Yeah, but these forced adoptions, you get no option to where they go.
No, that's the problem.
How do you know they're not going to a satanic family?
You don't, and as we have seen, what is it?
How do you even know that they even get to like 18 years old?
Yeah.
A lot of them don't. That's the problem. And psychologically, a lot of them are damaged no matter what. I mean, 80 to 90% of these kids have to be severely psychologically damaged just going through this process. Okay, I know.
It's child abuse. It's child abuse from the state.
I guarantee you my grandson is being child abused by the state at this point. This family matter could have been handled well over 2 years ago when it happened. We could have dealt with it when we found out about it. And if the state had alarmed us and said, hey, we found evidence and shown it to us and said, here, and given us first chance to try and solve it, we would have done it. And we would have done it phenomenally as a family, not as the government stepping into our family telling us we own your kids.
The state should have been the very last option, not the first, where they push their way into your family lives and start bossing you around.
If everything that was the offense happened within the genetic blooded family, there was a time in which the tribe would take care of their own problems first, and only if they couldn't would they step outside and then ask the community or the state, as we call it. Okay, that would be the way it normally worked. Let us have first crack at solving our family issues. Then, if we can't handle it, then we'll come to you. It shouldn't be you got to come to us. I got to call.
I have a connection.
Oh, hold on. I gotta go for a second. You guys continue to talk. I gotta take this call.
Oh, I thought that was Kathleen coming back.
Well, I'll just interrupt and let everybody know, and the viewers that are listening. We're going to reschedule the talk with Kathleen on the 28th of May and also get the other guest, Pippa King, on at the same time. And the guy that James mentioned on the video, we'll try and get in contact with him, but as of yet, I can't make that promise.
Hey folks, I've had a thought about this child stealing by the state, and
we've got Jeff on a low microphone there. Welcome, Jeff.
Microphone, am I? Sorry, I'll bump up the volume.
Pump it up, pump it up.
Pump up the volume.
Nice to see your beautiful face there, Jeff.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it. How's that? Is that better?
That's brilliant, that Jeff. Yep, spot on.
Yeah, I was just going to say about this stealing children by the state and Planned Parenthood and all this sort of stuff where they take control and that. To me, that's a very communist thing because, this communism is about the state taking control of everything and owning everything. And, I don't know whether the Tories have gone so right-wing that they're now on the hard left. I don't know. It's entirely possible.
I don't think there is a traditional left or right anymore. I think that what we have is conceptual ideas that have to do with whether we allow state control or whether we want independent control. So
what we got is communitarianism. That's what it is. That's where the left and the right are working hand in hand. That's communitarianism.
If you go out to Terry, you've got communism, haven't you?
Yeah.
And the thing is, I'm probably the one most closely. Most of you are probably a little more right than I am. I'm more one to go to the left, but I still have problems when it comes to because ultimately I'd like to believe community can be of essential importance. I don't want an unlawful or unreasonable or illegal use of community. So what I want is, again, I want a little bit of looseness when it comes to family matters, but when it comes to social issues that involve us all, I think we all need to get together and make decisions on that and inform community-based ethics, as to how and what we're going to allow or not allow. But I think this has gotten beyond that. I think this is a point where we've given too much over to, too much to the community and not enough to self-realization.
We're not giving it over, they've taken it over.
Well, but aren't we giving it over by allowing them to take it over? It's a slow process, of course. It's been happening since before any of us were born, including myself, and I'm probably one of the elders here, along with Dad.
It's through apathy that they've managed to take it off us.
Yeah, and it's a sort of natural consequence of large government. That's the problem. We need small government. That's what we need, if any.
Well, we need community. In my way of thinking, what I like is the idea of the old, having little small communities, which then tie together kind of like a net. So we all work together, but we don't focus on trying to depend upon like some big monster to take care of us. What we do is we form these small collective communities in which we all work together towards the common good of all people within that community. Then those communities, like I say, connect to the other communities, and then those more like communication and support. Like
you always get the control freaks and the blinking psychopaths starting.
Oh, of course, because you know what, I'm an optimist, and I sometimes am a fantasist in that the ideal government that I see in my head is totally unworkable on a rational scale of how humanity is right now. And that saddens me, because the loving kindness I want to see, the compassion, the empathy, reemerge as being the valiant thing that it once was. I mean, there was a time when we had valiant people. We had people willing to stand up and go, it's not that I'm great, but I'm willing to die for this cause. We don't have a lot of that today. We got a lot of people.
The vampires have sucked out the compassion of the society. They have ripped the fabric of society apart, and they are taking it over.
Yeah, in essence, and the sad fact is, this really comes down to money again, because the people who think that they have the right to dictate their ethics to us, their morals to us, are indeed the moneyed people, and they're the ones passing all this down. Oh, well, your family's not working? Well, we'll send CPS in there, or we'll send whatever it is in Britain. It is what it is. We have, a over strong government overriding.
We've got to regain some power back, and one good way of that is the blockchain, and stuff well knows.
I'm all for that, but it's like trying to figure out how to regain that power back. Part of it, I think, it comes through, I used to think, just fuck the system, we'll work outside the system and we'll make it change. Yeah, really, to me, as I've gotten older, I've realized it's better, because the system is as strong as it is, as much as we hate it. Well, it's better to get into it.
Yeah, but a system, if I say to you, James, what would you rather have? Centralization or decentralization?
Wait. Let me just leave that as a cliffhanger, and we'll continue that talk on Sunday coming, because I'm away. I'll be away, so I'll leave you guys to run this.
I'll be away next.
And the talk can be decentralization or centralization.
Are we supposed to take sides on this?
Maybe we can do something else that
I'm kind of in the middle, though. See, that's the problem. You're going to find I'm not pro either side of that. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm like, you need some decentralization, but you need some pro. But we can deal with that on another show. That's true.
Well, you're not capable of looking after yourself, NJ.
I'm sorry?
Are you capable of looking after yourself?
You're incapable of living.
Okay, let me ask a question. I guess this is where, since that question got asked, I believe, yes, I'm capable of living, except in certain situations. Like, for example, right now I'm under treatment for something. I have had Hep C for many years. Hep C finally has a cure. I am currently under treatment for it. The treatment for this runs $23,000 every month for 3 months. Okay.
Right.
I could not afford that in a decentralized way if that was available to me, but I was in a decentralized way right now. I couldn't afford it. I need the centralization to pay for my medication. Now, that means that there's other issues we need to take into consideration before we just decentralize, because otherwise drug companies can decide who lives and dies.
Right. Okay. Fine. Right. Let me go sideways on that thought. Okay.
And then again, this may be another.
Let me kind of go sideways on that thought, because I could go the other way, which is more of a strict direct answer. But I'll try and go sideways. I'll try and go in the middle here, right? Like the way you think.
Right.
Well, let's just say.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Yeah. Let me just say this, right? Let's just say that your drugs that you depend upon, right? Okay, is centralized. But how would you feel that you obtained it through a decentralized system? How do you feel about that?
Did I obtain it through a decentralized system or through, in a sense, a socialized system?
Well, now just the idea, the concept of, yeah, let's just take the pharmaceutical.
Well, ideally, what I'd like are these pharmaceutical companies. I mean, again, my view of the world is I want a world that doesn't exist. I want a world of empathy and compassion and consideration. These things don't truly exist. It's about profits and money and power. Okay,
well,
I understand.
Let's use stuff out. Let's use stuff out.
But basically what I'm saying is, at the moment, there's a lot of doctors, a lot of nurses, a lot of surgeons, a lot of practitioners are finding that their hands are so heavily tied with red tape and legislation, corporate, all of it from the pharmaceutical industries, they can't treat people anymore. So a lot of them are dealing direct with patients. They're dealing direct, they're cutting out the state.
You won't. Where do you find them? I have here in America. We're so regulated that to do that would be such a risk. That person may be in business for a week, and then he would be found out and gone because you can't work. How would this person get me a drug, for example, that I need? Which is there's only three drugs available I can take. This one should cure me in 3 months.
Well,
right.
But what's happening? What I'm saying is, if you go and check out, all right, I'll give you a video, and you can make a note of this, and you'll probably say this guy's on RT, I don't believe, whatever. His name's Max Kaiser. He done a video a couple of days ago, and after this show, he's talking to a doctor, and she is now cutting out a lot of the red tape and administration, which doubles the bill of Obamacare and all the rest of that stuff.
Oh, and that's wonderful, and I am so into people who do that. But what I guess I'm saying is that I don't know any of those people. I don't know where even to go to get to those people. And could they actually get me that medication I need
at a
lesser price? How?
Sure.
How are they going to get me that medication at a lesser price?
They're cutting out the layers of administration that we call them the quangos. They're managerial and there's more quangos administrators than doctors and nurses in hospitals.
Well, I have not. No, I don't even pay for I have insurance because of the state, because I'm poor in a sense by their standards. So I am able to get the quote Obamacare for nothing. So I get to go, and all of this, by the way, isn't costing me anything. I just don't like seeing this kind of cost, because if I freed myself from the state, I would then have to pay these costs. Whereas
James, it's not costing you out of your actual physical pocket, but it's costing everybody else in debt for you to get that.
Well, yeah, and I disagree with the cost of it. I wish the costs were brought down to a level where it was affordable by people who were sick and didn't have to.
Not affordable. That's the thing about it. You're speaking in terms of now, is in you've received the item that you need, and obviously, you're being told it's being paid for. But as Stav's just said, even the people that don't even exist yet, who are due to come in 10, 20, 30 years' time, they're the ones.
Oh, agreed. Agreed, absolutely agreed, and I don't like it. I don't like the fact that medication costs that amount of money. It's incredible. So, like, I take a pill, okay? Every day I take a pill. $1,000 is what I take.
My question is, how will the blockchain have an effect on things like that? And also the child stealing Father's
It
Day.
won't. It won't, PJ, because whenever there's privatization and profit or money involved, basically, then everything's going to be centered around that. I mean, if you take the pharmaceutical industry, for example, all right, because of their need to make a profit for them to function, they therefore have to keep selling you symptomatic treatments rather than cures, so that you carry on with your illness, relying on them for these symptoms.
Get out of it, Jack. Get out of it.
What?
Get out of it.
Get out of what?
Get out of it.
Get out of
How
what?
do you do that? How do you do that?
I don't want to. I'm a month into my treatment. I don't want to get out of it. I want to be healed. I want to live.
Get out of the centralization.
Well, let's try and get out of this circular argument for now, because we're not going to get out of it tonight. And
Oh,
this
no, I
is
agree.
almost coming to an end. Next week, you guys can do whatever you want, because I'll be away camping. So any final comments on the topic for tonight?
Well, I think it's an important topic. Going back, we have had Kathleen Arthur on the show, although she was sporadic. I want to thank her for being here, by the way. That's important. We thank her. We look forward to having her back to talk more about this right to lie case. So maybe some more things will happen that we can, when we talk to her again. Again, I want to encourage people to go check out the Hardwick versus Rican case number 15-55563. Again, 15-55563. You can pretty much just put that in your, put court case 15-55563, and it will take you to a number of articles and opinions on it. You can come to your own conclusions, of course, but the important thing to realize is that we need to have an autonomy as human beings, and the minute the state gets too involved in our lives, they indeed begin to utilize lies and deception in some cases to get even more control. And I think that's the real hub of what we're talking about here, is how much are we going to allow our government to be allowed to lie in order to get their goals met.
That is why checks and balances have to be brought back, whereas they keep bringing laws and statutes to remove those checks and balances rather than putting checks and balances in place.
My final thought on it, folks, is that as long as there is money, profit and privatisation and all the ruddy rest of it, there will always be a disconnect between the true value of a resource and the equivalent money. Is not equal.
Well, we could even, this could take us into another thing where I want to get, like I was saying earlier today, I want to get somebody in, who's a friend of mine who is into the whole thing with mandatory sentencing and that issue, because I think a lot of this comes down to, once we fracture the mind of somebody, they're probably going to become institutionalized, meaning in some way they're going to need some institutional treatment that's going to take them into what? The institution, which is the United States or the British or whatever government you happen to align with, and going to pull them further into that, thus basically making more people who are going to need to be institutionalized later. And you know what? That doesn't bother them a bit, because here in America, the prison system is a money-making operation.
It's an industrial complex.
I'm sorry?
It's a prison industrial complex.
Yeah, exactly. And it's part of the whole, if you really want to take it down to what it really amounts to, it's all really part of the military industrial complex. It all comes back to military strength and military, in a sense, a hidden dictatorship of the military. These people actually feel they're above the law. Our military really feels it doesn't need to comply with anything.
They are above the law. They've got right to lie, aren't they? So.
Exactly, and that's the point. When we have a right to lie, and that's, I guess, I can't even fathom that we could ever give our.
Well, what I don't get, though, is if they do have the right to lie, then why do they go to extremes of covering things up and crossing out, wordings and stuff like that? I don't see the point.
Well, they have the right to lie, but they still want us, the American people or the British people or whatever people we are, to basically.
And if hearsay is sort of admissible in these sort of courts, these family courts, then what's point in making lies up anyway?
Yeah, it's all about just getting control. And so if they can get control of the kids, which is, I mean, that's, once you got your kids, you got everything. I mean, the education system, we can go do a whole show on that probably, and how that's just basically taking our...
Family is the foundation of your country. No matter what country you live in, the family is the foundation. If they can break up the foundation, they broke up the country. And that is so occur.
Well, this is for me.
To rebuild as they want it.
If there's anything such as like an activism type of thing, then it is definitely, you know, the first point of call is dealing with the children that are going missing by whatever means, whether it's forced adoption or whatever. I think that is definitely got to be the starting point. Because if we can't deal with that, then what value is us dealing with anything else?
And you got to realize too, that people who are activists, people who are like us who have opinions, we got to be careful on several fronts, because there are those who would want to, especially if we're on target, if we know what we're dealing with, if we know, then they're coming to look at us.
Me personally, I've got no children, but I know one thing: there's many people I've met in my life who would fight so hard for the children, and that is the only thing that they'd ever fight for.
Well, and I believe in fighting for the children. I absolutely believe it.
So if we can't get together as whether it's a community or communities, then what chance do we have?
Yeah.
And the problem is
that is why they brought the gagging in the family courts, because they don't want people to know how prevalent it is going on, the taking of the children.
And meanwhile, they're feeding us stories and things to keep us occupied in other ways. But that's always been a situation where they don't. I mean, I wouldn't have known anything about this court case, and yet it's so important. And that's true of a lot of things, folks.
I don't mind gagging orders, Paul, because that's what gives the Streisand effect. You know, and more people start talking about it, and that eventually does put the word about. And the cause of that is not even people trying to put the word out. It's just naturally, you know, people chatting in a cafe or whatever it is about it. But let's just try and start getting some communication. We're never going to get it on such things as internet, because it's done for failure, this internet, I tell you now. Last few weeks, it's just drove me up wall. So let's get back on the streets, start talking to people, and seeing what we can do.
Amazing, actual human interaction.
We've got to start supporting working men's clubs that are like that, so where people can network and talk to each other.
People have lost communication and social skills.
Supporting in England the smoking ban in pubs and that, because they knew full well a lot of people wouldn't go to pubs. Therefore, a lot of the networking would fall down, and it has done.
Yeah, folks. Can we finish on a little bit of humour? So
yes, because I got to get out of here myself. I got my cable guy coming in.
I've got a little post here I want to share with you.
Go for it.
Okay, entire screen. Hang on.
Oh, my cable guy's here. I got to go, guys.
Can you see
that?
All
right, James.
All right, bye, guys.
Later.
Right there.
James.
Cheers, James. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Said it.
Gov.uk, welcome to government.uk. We are currently recruiting politicians, wanted urgently, great rates of pay, limited places available, must be able to lie through the back of your teeth, must be available to fall asleep in the House of Commons on Wednesday afternoons, must be a paedophile or have some other socially unacceptable perversions like screwing dead pigs so that we can manipulate you and blackmail you into doing our corrupt bidding. Must be able to convince constituents into wasting their time going to polling stations and voting. Apply within now. You'd like that.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, good
I
one.
already saw it, Jeff.
Yeah, good one. I think on that note, I'm going to have to leave you guys.
No worries. Okay, join us next week. I'm not sure what the topic will be, but we'll be back. All right, guys, thanks for joining.
Cheers, BJ. Cheers, Paul. Cheers, Stav.
Yeah, see you, Jeff.
Later.
Later, folks.
Cheers, Steph.